Okay, good morning. And thanks for being here with such a large crowd. At least I was a bit worried about being on the Thursday morning, but people are still happy and interested in joining the sessions. Very good. Welcome to the session on creating business value with Sharepoint 2013. And I heard some strange noises, but and I'm very, very happy to have our distinguished customers here from Avanade who can talk about their experiences and their learnings in the Sharepoint 2013 or Sharepoint, I must say, because 2013 is not, let's say, covering the whole thing in that space. So lessons learned, best practices. We want to create a session today that is very interactive. So people will be walking around with mics. So we will have a, I would say, free-flowing session. We have some questions, of course, prepared, and also getting opinions from our guests here. They will introduce themselves in a moment. And also talk about where they come from, their role, and what they are doing with Sharepoint. After that, we go into the questions and answers. But please chime in during the session, I would say. So don't hold back. Raise your arm if you want to make a remark, have a question, whatever. People will come to you with a mic. And let's make it as valuable for you as possible. So try to get things out. If you want to come closer to the audience because you think you have a lot of questions and answers maybe, please do so. No problem at all. Okay, maybe to start off with myself. You see, I'm actually wearing a suit in this audience, and that means I have to compensate for not being very knowledgeable on the technology. So. I don't want to offend my guests, by the way. But already doing so. That's also because I'm Dutch. We offend people quite easily. It's a bit of a habit of our nation. So also apologize for that up front already. But it's what I would like to say. We have some Avanade employees also in the audience, the experts. So if we get into questions that we don't know and I don't know, and like I said, I reach that level quite quickly, then we will defer to the experts that are around here. So I would say, without further ado, wanted to start with the introductions. And like I said, I'm Dutch, I'm from Avanade, and I lead the global collaboration service line, as we call it. We have divided our offerings to the market in 6 service lines, collaboration being one of them. So I have the honor to lead a great team of Avanade around the world that are working primarily in the Sharepoint space and everything that's connected with it. So that's my background, and I would like to start with the introductions of our distinguished guest, starting with name, company, and let's say your relationship to Sharepoint. Starting with Scott.
Hello, I'm Scott Mitchell from Devon Energy, which is an independent oil and gas company. Our focus is North America, which you would think would simplify things. I've been at Devon about 7 years, a variety of roles, and today I lead both the operational team that manages our Sharepoint farms and the delivery teams that deliver solutions. So I've got both sides of that shop in my group, and which makes things run a little smoother, which is one of our lessons learned. Transitioning things to operations was always a difficult thing. So we also have open text, and so that rolls up under my team as well. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm completely unoffended. These guys sold me out.
I informed Scott up front about this remark, so it's... Vivek.
Yeah, and now I'm offended. Hi, I'm Vivek. I work for Pfizer. I'm part of the corporate functions business technology group. So our technology is aligned to business. So it's not information technology, it's business technology. So I manage over 80 applications in those. So it's strategy, architecture, delivery, support, and heavily Microsoft, so .NET and SharePoint. In over 15 years of working with Microsoft technologies, I find out that I learn every day. So I'm happy to wear this suit, actually.
Thank you. Okay. Philip.
My level of technical expertise is probably the lowest in this group, as you can see. My name is Filip Knapik. I'm with Procter & Gamble for the last 11 years. And I'm based in Warsaw, Poland, although I have a global responsibility for IT solutions development and deployment for project and portfolio management business areas.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Ross from the Dow Chemical Company. I'm really glad I'm out here in Vegas because it's really cold in Midland, Michigan. So I'm enjoying this immensely out here. I got 3 groups that I lead that all overlap into SharePoint. I've got end user development, which they're enabling power users to use the technologies. So I've got a group around the globe to be able to manage those. I've got mobile application development, which is enterprise and also customer. We can see where SharePoint is going to be really enabling that. And then the real cusp of why I'm here is the collaboration application service configuration inside SharePoint. So we've been in SharePoint land about 6 years now, had it on-premise. About 3 years ago, with the help of Avanan, we moved to the cloud in BPOS-D. So we've been dedicated cloud for about 3 years, and we've migrated our SharePoint into that space. So we have been that hybrid and learnings. There's some opportunity challenges, and then later this year we're actually going to go to Office 365 2013. So we're in that journey going that far, and we're really looking forward to it. I see some of the features that we've been desiring of integration of the tools and Yammer and the social has always been the challenge for us. I see that all coming together and enabling my 3 other groups that I'm responsible for. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Thanks, Dave. Mario.
I'm Mario Kiriakou. I work for Bristol Myers, and I am a service assurance manager, which basically translates to delivery manager. And I look after the SharePoint and .NET applications. And we're in that sort of twilight period where we're looking at 2013, both hosted on-prem and in the cloud, and in both clouds, both Office 365 and actually in the Amazon cloud as well. And like Scott, I'm from England, so we don't wear jackets.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Thomas.
Hi, I'm Tom Perlobos. I work for Travelers Insurance. Work in the content and collaboration area. We're an engineering group. We're in the develop, sustain, and fulfill model. I manage the develop side of the house, so we look at new technologies and also new iterations of technology. So we're on SharePoint 2010 now. We just got there last year from WSS, actually. So now we're looking at 2013 to quickly move. But in an insurance company, it's very difficult to quickly move, so we're looking at techniques of doing that. We are interested in the cloud, but we're completely on-prem. There's some challenges there to getting to the cloud, but we want innovation, yet it's very difficult to roll out our infrastructures in a timely fashion. So the cloud is interesting to us, and need to convince those that the powers that be. So
okay, thanks. That was Jeannie.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Elias, and I also work for Travelers Insurance. So I lead the fulfillment team, and what that means is I work with our internal end users. Any intake that comes in, we primarily support our standard environment, collaboration environment. We also intake custom requests and work with our sustainment team to make that happen. So yeah, we do a lot of training. We do a lot of user groups. We do some really great stuff with our end users.
Okay, well, thanks. As you can see, like I said, a distinguished set of people and a lot of experience on implementing SharePoint and the customer journeys and creating business value from that. And I want to start with the first question on how did you get started using SharePoint? So what was the strategy behind it? Why the choice for SharePoint? And just start with Dave.
We are a very Microsoft shop. Our infrastructure is all based on NT servers, NTFS authentication, desktops. We have a global rollout of workstations. It's all Microsoft based. It was just a strategic, logical step to bring in SharePoint as that next generation architecture. So we really didn't have a choice. It was just our strategy going forward with the big part of Microsoft as one of our partners.
Is it a mission critical environment for you in Dow?
Not yet. It's still just, unfortunately, it's still a glorified file share from part of our users' perspective. Unfortunately, and that was part of our fault as our rollout. If you didn't put governance around it, some type of objectives, they become file shares that look nice in a browser. And that's unfortunately what's happened with our on-premise, but we're moving out of that. Unfortunately, that's crawling into our BPOS system. So now our next step is to take 2013 and not do that. Let's get ahead of that. How do we get that communications out there and integrating it? That's, if we're a lesson learned, we didn't set our objectives. We just said, here it is, and go wild. And, well, you get wild weeds and chaos if you don't pay attention to that.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe shifting to Vivek. Same question, basically.
Sure. So I clearly remember in 2006, 2007, we had a huge program in Pfizer to consolidate tons of these different content servers and content management systems we had into SharePoint. So every employee in Pfizer pretty much got a goal to help with that program. It was a huge worldwide program at that time, and we introduced SharePoint 2007, trained people on it. It is partly a file share, but it's integrated into our business process completely. We just finished all of the 2010 migrations, so we're completely a 2010 farm now, and we're ramping up on 2013. We are completely on-prem. We are huge. At one time, we were, I think, the 5th largest installation for SharePoint. So we still have about 168 servers. Not that I'm bragging about it, but
counting them every day.
But to answer your second question, yes, absolutely, we're mission critical. It's not related to revenue, or at least I'm not aware of an application that's related to revenue, but our internal portal is on it. We call it Pfizer World, and we get, on a normal day, 250,000 hits on that portal. On a good quarterly result announcement day, we go up to 1 million hits. So we need that environment up and running. The other catch is all the people going to like HR systems and other systems go from this internet portal. So they don't know how to go to HR system or the URL for that HR system. They only know this internet portal. So one time we went down and we actually got an outage for the HR system, which was never down. It was just they never had that link up there, so it was an outage for them. So it's pretty mission critical for us to have this site up.
Yeah. Okay. And how's that for you, Scott?
I think our story began with SharePoint 2007, but adoption was pretty low. It was more, if you want a team site, you can have a team site. And there wasn't a lot of strategy around it. What really kicked things off at Devon was a project to build an intranet. And so we have an intranet system that's based on SharePoint 2010. And that project really fanned the flames for SharePoint and the product and technology. And it was really bringing people together in that one place. So people identify with that, and having that identity is what I think caused things to grow. And since then, we also have an HR portal that connects to SAP, so that all of the common things that our users do, if you want to change your banking or your check routing or your W-2s, all that's done through SharePoint, and it's a nice, common, easy to use interface. So mission critical? No, it's not mission critical. We have a business continuity team that ranks and does a risk assessment on every system, and our intranet, our team sites, our HR connected systems. We have a BI system and a project system now. It's all on SharePoint. None of those, interestingly enough, have made it to the critical or high list. They're all medium risk.
So. Okay. And looking into success factors, because we have all experience, I think, with SharePoint implementations, doing things wrong and things right, I hope. When you look at success factors in your specific company, and maybe putting the question to Mario of Bristol Myers Squibb, what are the success factors for you in the SharePoint implementation?
Well, there's two really, but the big one that we found was we were able to actually create a template within SharePoint and use that in multiple sites. For example, all our corporate sites, not all, but majority of our corporate sites that are international are actually all on SharePoint. And we created a template to actually run on that. Initially, a site would cost us maybe anything from 70 to 100,000 to create. With the template, we actually got the cost down to maybe 10,000 to actually create international sites. So that was a huge reduction in cost. And that, of course, spurned a lot of countries which wouldn't have done this to actually have a site and make it available.
Okay. So it was a real business case. There was money behind it, basically.
Always money.
Yeah. Okay, and we were also talking about failures. Maybe let's say, one or two largest mistake you have made in SharePoint. And now not trying to pick on anybody, but maybe stay with you, Mario. You have talked about your successes.
Thank you. Thanks, Mario.
My friend here. The original reason we got SharePoint was for collaboration. I wasn't with the company at the time, but what happened was that they let multiple groups create their own team sites. It was used for project sites. And I did a report just before I came, and there's something like 38,000 sites in collaboration right now. How many of those are actually used? I don't know. And that was the problem. There is no solid governance across all these sites, and that I think is one of our biggest failures. Especially as we now move to 2013, we now need to decide which sites are actually effectively dead, which are live, which have got information that needs to be archived for the future, and which can be just thrown away. So we're into a process of cleaning up.
Yeah. You hear it quite a lot, actually, around here, I must say. A lot of companies cleaning up 21,000 sites or something like that. Yeah. If you look at the parts in SharePoint, and maybe shifting to travelers, Thomas, what do you think are the most important parts of SharePoint in your organization?
I'd say that at this point it's team sites, so it's primarily a place for collaboration. So it's really what that platform was for at Travelers at this point, is strictly collaboration. We're heading towards records management as well, but at this point it's being able to take some of the things that, and we still have behaviors where folks use file shares, folks use a lot of email, so it's being able to help them and help users to get to the next level of actually collaborating in SharePoint versus collaborating some of these external systems. So I know Jeannie probably has a better feel for that too, because she's close to the end user. So
okay, well,
and over to you, Jeannie.
No pressure. No, I would agree with that. The fact that we've got, I remember a customer coming to us from the UK asking, how quickly can we get this? Will it take 2-3 weeks? And we said we can get it to you in 2 days. Yeah. Depending on what their requirements were, usually we can turn those around if we don't have something that could already accommodate their needs. So collaboration is key, and I think going to 2013, we're really excited about. I'm really excited about Yammer. I don't know how we're going to get that in, but being a conservative company, it's going to be something I think that we'll really try to strive towards.
And because when you're looking forward to Yammer, what do you see as the benefit of that?
I think the key with the Yammer will be if we can integrate it into where people work. So into Outlook, into our team sites, into where they do their business. Right now we have a pilot of my sites, and it's piloted to our IT staff. And we have probably about a 5% adoption rate. It's really low because people have to think to go to my site. It's not integrated in their everyday work. So we need that integration.
Okay. Getting back to the components, because I know Procter & Gamble, you are very much involved in the project server part, I would say. Yeah? So more
correct.
next to
And
it,
actually, this is how it all started. So we're looking for a solution that we could give to the project teams that could help them not only collaborate, but also manage their projects.
Yeah.
And as such, this is what actually drove us in that direction, and this is what we picked as the first 2013 implementation. And so what is very valuable for the project managers is the scheduling capabilities. In the same time, having collaboration capabilities for the rest of the team. And as such, this is a pretty nicely integrated product.
Yeah, a lot. Everybody, by the way, is still very quiet. Is it all very clear, or are there questions to the panel based on the first answers? What? Over there. Maybe somebody has a mic. Ah, it is arriving. No. Sorry for that. He was first on the
Hello? For the folks that have, I guess, more business critical or maybe validated applications running on their SharePoint environments, do you also run your kind of ad hoc or collaborative team sites, things that aren't validated systems in that environment as well, or have you chosen to split them across farms or across servers within the farm?
For Dow, it's Dave here. For Dow, we don't have any mission critical applications. They're mostly configuration that we've done from managed code through. The only time we've split up our farms is if it's due to the data that's being stored. So highly protective intellectual property has its own farm. We've got some on-premise applications that we can't talk from the cloud back to our back end, so we have some applications there. But we really don't have a lot that are mission critical that we manage. But the results is we have some separation due to the data sitting there as well as the processing done.
And I can imagine in the pharmaceutical world, Bristol Myers and Pfizer, that you have.
So I think what he's asking about is validated systems, which is definitely a pharmaceutical. All right. So to be honest, I'm not aware of validated apps sitting on SharePoint, even though we have a huge SharePoint farm. But to answer your question on the splitting of the farms, we did split it for our mission critical internal portal is a separate farm. We split it pretty interestingly. We have team sites on separate, designer sites on a separate farm, and then custom on a separate farm. So we kind of split in that manner, and there's I think one-off for R&Ds that they use. So. Okay.
Mario, you have something to add here? Or?
Well, we don't really have any validated systems on SharePoint, but we're about to have our first, and that is in a separate farm.
Okay.
So we don't have any validated systems, but when we patch, they all become validated for some reason. So the customers then say, "Oh, that's something that's mission critical to us."
Yeah.
It's one of our pain points is patching. So
in the end, every server it's all validated. Yeah.
It's all mission critical when it's down, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was some other question over here.
I have two questions, actually. The first is, assuming that everybody here in this panel has some form of governance within your organizations, I would hope, what have you done from a policy perspective? What policies has governance created from a success and failure perspective? And the second question is, what are you doing in terms of rolling out SharePoint Designer? Are you allowing that to go out into the organization, or are you keeping that back in IT?
I can answer that from a business side. We do recertification every year. We have we have the owners of our site collections identified, and every year we contact every owner, if there's 1, 2, or 3 of them, and ask them to look at their purpose statement, review their membership, validate that all of that information is correct. We help them if some of it's incorrect with some of the membership, clear out some of the orphaned users. So I think we keep our environment clean. If we do find people out of compliance with some of our branding, we do work with them to explain to them why they need to become in compliance. Helps with some of the upgrades that we conduct. It just keeps it clean, and it's worked well. We've actually been in the collaboration business. We started with IBM QuickPlace, moved to SharePoint in 2009, and we've maintained that same governance the whole time. It doesn't matter on the technology.
Sounds like a good policy.
It is. It's great.
Yeah. And it's on a yearly basis you do this?
Yearly basis,
okay.
Yep.
So just to follow up too, we've expanded our footprint into the custom world as well. So we brought the standard environment, which was just out of the box, and in 2010 we've gone custom, and so we have a separate governance in place for that. So with SharePoint Designer, we allow only workflows in the standard farm, but in they're web apps, they're separated by web apps. But in the custom, we allow for complete Designer usage, but it has to go through a series of groups, creative user experience, things like that. So we have some good governance in place. It's all policy. It's not, some of it's hard to enforce. It's just communicated.
Okay. Anybody else has such policies in place to keep the...
Yeah, so I can actually adding on to recertification of administrators and other access. We do versions, a number of version check every month. And number of items in the list every month. We've seen that causing huge performance issues. On the custom side, we do a very detailed code review before you even get on the platform. So we would not deploy unless you go through check 1, 2, 3, 4, and finish everything. There is no, well, there is an exception path, but we do not try to go there at all. I mean, if you need an exception, we'll pretty much tell you, go get, you'll have to sponsor another farm, and that convinces them to stay on the shared environment. So, so custom, we're definitely pretty strict on how we enforce that. Designer, we took a pretty interesting approach. That was actually a lesson learned for us. That's a pretty nice question. We saw farm coming down or having issues pretty much even with JavaScript, believe it or not. And so we took a different approach. We said, let's work with the client. So we created an internal group that actually helps the client build those designer sites, and they already have the best practices in place. They already have the snippets. So they ramp up pretty quickly, they deliver pretty quickly, and it's in line with the best practices there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, I think all the companies had record retention, electronic guidelines and such. What we found that adjusted our policy was that collaboration piece that came with SharePoint and some of the social pieces. That's what we had to add on to our policy. And that was also the introduction of Twitter and all of Facebook and how employees should communicate, where they're communicating. That was a big impact on our policies as we rolled through, which actually sets us up for, as you can see, the social sites and the Yammers coming along. So that was a big, over the last couple of years, a lot of conversations between public affairs and legal and such. And we also have, so that was that, then the designer, we have that same situation. That's one of my groups that are responsible for helping designers, customization of sites. So we have got a group that's responsible for that to help that roll out so we don't have the issues with stability and such.
Okay.
We work slightly different in that we have a security group. Irrespective of the technology, they will look for the vulnerability of any site that comes up. And they also demand that we do user reviews once at least per year to see who has access to the system, what permissions they've got. If the system is critical or sensitive, they might ask for that more than once a year.
Oh, it's an interesting one. Yeah.
And as for Designer, we've actually banned it. However, now, now that 2013 is coming into play, we're going to review that and perhaps move forward with it, especially for workflows.
Okay. You want to add something, Scott?
Yeah, we have an interesting designer story. We don't, pairing up with people using Designer is a great way to handle that. Unfortunately, we don't have the resource, right? We don't have the staff to do that. So the way it works for us is when somebody gets into trouble, that's when we find out about, they're having an issue, and so that's when we get involved with, they're building a designer site. So we do allow designer, but in 2013, right, the main reasons people use designer are 1 for workflow, 2 for forms, and then 3rd for just look and feel. They want to do something, they want to have a little bit more flexibility. And we had a site where there was quite a bit of customization around the look and feel. We moved it to 2013, or we moved this group to 2013, and that was when we had the aha moment. There's no design surface in designer anymore, and that's what he was used to. So that was an interesting conversation to have. Is with this person is how do I manage my look and feel now that I don't have a design surface in designer? So a little bit of retraining has to go into that. Now that you use Design Manager in SharePoint 2013, it's a different level of skill. So for us, it was a little bit of a gotcha.
Okay.
In our case, we're able to pretty much reuse the governance model from 2010. We just extended it and merged it into one, and it worked pretty well. In terms of design, we don't use it too much. We're currently focusing on more line of business solutions where we basically predefine the process and how it works, and this is what we move along. But again, I'm focusing on a specific use case of project management and collaboration of the project teams, and as such, we're able to kind of limit the usage to that scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, more answer than question, I would say. Yeah. There was another question in front here.
Hello. Yes, the question is around search strategy for your organization, because search is an area where you can use search to add value. It brings success to your deployment. It allows for more adoption, faster adoption. It makes people more efficient in terms of finding information, finding what they're looking for. So I'd be interested to find out if your organizations are, what you're doing around search and enterprise search specifically.
Dave.
We've actually implemented FAST as our enterprise search tool engine. We successfully put that in last year. One of the gotchas or opportunities is FAST doesn't really search 2013 as efficiently as it. So we're right now ramping up and implementing 2013 search on-premise. So we'll be federating all our file shares, our documents, Documentum, OpenText, as well as our cloud solutions. So that's going to be our enterprise search. And what we found out, we don't secure our documents really well because security said, stop. You're exposing too much content. Well, lessons or sins of our past are catching up with a really good search engine. And don't blame search, blame the owners. So what you'll find when you implement search, SharePoint search, you're going to find a lot of things in the closet. So there's going to be ripple up work to secure that document, secure that resources. So it was a good and it's a good opportunity going forward. But yeah, people are now almost information overload because now the research is coming back with so much that before we had other appliances that weren't effective. So I spot on. That's where search would be, and you'd be able to roll that up in a lot of different places. We're really excited about it.
Okay. I saw another question there. Yeah.
Yep. Hello. Am I on? Okay. Hi. I'd be interested to know if you look at your, say, 2-year roadmaps, take sort of a survey of what percentage of your SharePoint activity you think you will have cloud-based versus on-premises.
We can answer that pretty quick.
Yeah, Jeannie.
We probably won't be on cloud.
Well, we'll still be evaluating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I heard also other friends.
Myself, we'll be 80% there. We're already 75% there, and we're saying, why not the cloud? Of all the services that are coming along, as I said, we've been there for 3 years. It's just our momentum. And as I said, all the services coming on. The only critical things is the critical IP information we got to keep close to the chest. That's what's going to be local. So that's going to be about 20% of our information. The rest of it is going out in the cloud.
Other opinions?
We're moving a little slower. We actually have Server 2003 still in our DMZ and Server 2007. We're getting rid of all of those solutions. And so anything that's in our DMZ is moving to the cloud. And we're doing that this year. We have a mix of, we're on 2010 and 2007 mainly. So our strategy is just to remediate that and move that to the cloud so that we get off of those old technologies. And then internally, we're not making any changes at this point. So we're moving a little slower.
And you have a cloud with 168 servers in it.
I really doubt it at this point. But there is something that I'm concerned about is every company I talk to has a cloud strategy before an on-prem strategy. And that is something that will force us to think about how we come up with that. So honestly, I don't have an answer yet for that, but it's going to be a tough one.
Same for us. I mean, we are currently on-premise because of data sensitivity and integration with other solutions, and for now, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Well, in our case, we're going to move all the collaboration sites to Office 365 in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And we're going to use the cloud for mainly development environments, especially the integrated development environments.
Okay. Yes, and you'll be evaluating it. Well, treading on dangerous areas here, but as a moderator, I also have an opinion. I think my view is that cloud will be a no-brainer in a few years. I think we will actually be laughing in 5 years' time that we were managing all these servers ourselves. Yeah, but it's of course, there will always be data that you want on-premise, but it's a very small portion, I think.
It would be wonderful to be laughing on Saturday evenings.
Yeah.
More pagers, and et cetera. So.
Yeah. Okay. I saw a lot of hands. It's on fire here.
My question is really to all of you who are planning to move to SharePoint Online. Given that most of you represent global companies, how are you handling the security and compliance requirements around putting confidential data online and sharing with external parties, especially along the lines of the implication of the Patriot Act for the external subsidiaries you have?
You got the question from someone else on your telephone? Or?
I wrote it up so that I'm very clear.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Very good, very good. Who wants to take that? Patriot Act. Patriot Act.
I need a cue card for that one.
Well, as I mentioned, I said we're 80% going out in the cloud, and that's the medium to low business content. Yeah. There's the authentication process is going through security. They're always, right now, to get out to the cloud, you have to VPN to our network. So the only way you get to the cloud is through our network, through VPN out to the cloud. So they haven't got to where you can sign on to any device anywhere in the world. We still have to authenticate through our Active Directory backup that way. We do have export control, that information, that's the local farm. So there are things we just can't expose to the rest of the world because of regulations. That's why we have a farm, and it's managed within North America. So that's how we're handling that. So you're going to have to have a hybrid eventually. So that's how we're handling the authentication. Authentication is getting more improved. So we're getting a two-factor authentication. That's the only way we're going to be able to get away from VPNing into our systems. Yeah. So that's all companies are going to have to go through that process. We're right in the middle of it. We haven't got the ultimate solutions yet, but I know the team in security is actually working actively with that, with Microsoft as well.
Yeah. Is that also what keeps you evaluating with travelers, this exact point?
Yeah, a lot of it's compliance related. Can I ask a question to the panel?
Yeah.
So the encryption requirements, do you have encryption requirements in the cloud?
Yep. Yeah.
And maybe to add to that, if we're becoming a self-organizing panel now, asking each other. I was very close to a financial institution in the Netherlands, I think now 2 years ago, who went to Office 365, so public cloud with all mail and SharePoint and everything. And they were the first actually in the Netherlands at that moment. And we had quite a debate with the Dutch bank at a regulatory institute, but in the end it became it was approved and it was authorized, and two-factor authentication, of course, and etc. But you often think that things are not possible, but in the end it is there is a way to it. Yeah. Scott,
that just kind of sparked my thinking there, though, right? our internal encryption is 2048 bit encryption, and that's done as a standard everywhere. So if that's overhead that you put on a solution, you got to be prepared for that. You got to be prepared for that. So make sure, right, you think through that before you just move to that kind of encryption. Fortunately, so we encrypt all of our content even locally so that we can extend it out to a mobile phone or extend it out outside our premise. But on-prem, we have encryption, acceleration, and we've planned for all of that. And so when you're doing a cloud implementation, you need to think through that as well.
Yeah. Okay. I see a lot of hands. Maybe over here.
Jeannie, Gene, I know you mentioned a little bit about the value of Yammer, and Dave, you touched on it a little bit as well, but what do the rest of you feel about the sort of value Yammer and social can bring to your organization?
That was actually the next question on my...
Taking your job here.
Very good, thank you. Jeannie, maybe you...
I wasn't sure if you were asking me or the rest of the panel members. You know, being at the conference, it opens your eyes up to so many possibilities, and I sat through a session where Nationwide talked about the value that Yammer is bringing to their customer reps that reach out to customers, something I hadn't even thought about. So I'm just thrilled about being here at this conference and hearing these value adds that other companies are seeing from using these products, and just that alone would add so much value to our company.
I think it was also impressive to see how the integration is now coming along in Office 365 actually. I think that was an eye-opener for quite a lot of people at the keynote already. Yeah. Other opinions about the value of social and Yammer in particular?
I'll comment.
You can always count on you, Dave.
I always have an opinion. We went up this hill twice over the last 3 years, trying to integrate social. We've brought in social sites, a couple of other vendors even brought in Yammer before Microsoft purchased it. Being an ultra-conservative chemical company, Yammer is a third-party hosted. So there was some concerns of having that conversations hosted in a data source that we can't pull back if it got out there. So that was a concern there. So we went through another competitor vendor, brought that in, and the first time we did it, said, here, IS, let's script this. So here's a big script, go and do your, enter your news feeds, what did you think? And we got good participation as they were doing the scripts. And as soon as the scripts were over, everybody went back to work because it was an adder. And what we're finding out is if it's just an adder and they have to go someplace else to do their work, they're not going to get it done. It's not going to be part of their process, because any work process is beginning to end, and if you can help them do it better, faster, quicker, great, but don't add it on, make it an enabler. So what I'm seeing, as we saw today, the integration of those conversations in your Outlook. Yes, I'm going to be an Outlook dinosaur. That's where all my work is. But now if you pull that in, I can be able to respond to those messages and those feeds inside where I'm comfortable working. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to adopt it. I'm going to go forward versus other folks will work someplace else. That's the key that I'm taking away this conference is now I got to go take that and market it back to my organization and say, guys, it's going to get better. Because it's been the perception is, I don't want to go out there. I'm doing my work here. So that's what I'm taking away, which is really good. That's what we need to take. So and I think we've seen some slides, technology is 80%, or 20%, 80% is the human behavior. That's what we have to deal with.
Okay. I saw some people looking as if they had something to say, but it's Vivek.
Sure. It's interesting. We have a big social implementation at Pfizer. A lot of interaction, except it's been done since 2008-9, completely custom. So the value that Yammer and SharePoint Social is going to bring in is reduced customization and reduced pain for me. So I can literally laugh on a Saturday and be done with it. So that's I'm really looking forward to it. We do a lot of interactions on social, but something to think about. It's not just about microblogging or blogging on it. It's slightly broader for us. We have a social collaboration strategy which includes people search, expertise search, point-to-point video conferencing, web conferencing. There's tons of stuff that goes around. Even if you're viewing an internal video, you can comment on it, you can rate it, and it comes on to that same feed, and it all comes together. So it's also innovation management. So we encourage innovation, and part of it is done through collaboration on SharePoint. So it's slightly broader than I want to bring in Yammer, or I want to bring in social, or do it online. It's think about the business and where the value is there.
Yeah, and I personally also know of quite a lot of implementations we have done as Avanade with clients where there was just a hard business case behind it. It's not all about having nice chats in communities, etc., which can be very valuable, but it's also very hard business cases about bringing people together, especially on an operational level, without having to go to all the hierarchy to get things done, but just have a peer-level conversation about, let's say, replacement parts for trucks, basically, or you can think of anything, basically. Other opinions, Scott? You were, yeah.
We're kind of waiting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I think it's very exciting, especially with Yammer and Search and SharePoint and Link all working together. I'm hoping more for a unified experience over time.
Yeah.
And so if somebody, they won't necessarily have to know where to go, what community to belong to, which is the struggle we have today. Our business changes and knowledge processes evolve, so we don't want to jump on board too soon. No. It would be nice to type in a question, how do I do an expense report, and that I get connected either to an expert or it's answered for me without somebody else having to respond to it. So, right, having Search and Yammer and all the technologies there, I think we just need to see it evolve a little bit and bring some more power and connect our users to people and past discussions more automatically.
Is it already used in Procter & Gamble, Philip?
We have a slightly different approach for social, and so far my implementation is focusing on the project teams internally and how to make it work efficiently for them rather than broad social. So we have a different approach there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. My question is for the people that are using SharePoint to host their intranet. My question is, how are you doing that content management, and what role in the organization is managing the content? Is it the content owners, or is it like a technical person that's having to manage that content?
I can take this one. So we have, so this is a pretty interesting story. We had tons of separate portals coming up for every, I would call it a community, which is really business users. It could be a group based on location or what they do, in manufacturing or R&D, and they use these separate sites for communication. Everybody needed to publish an article, everybody needed a newsletter, and we said, stop, we don't want to do that separately. We created one big intranet portal for communications that's actually linked across all these different communities. You can choose which communities you want to be part of, and it all surfaces up to the home site. So I can choose to be part of the legal division and R&D, and I'll get both of those news along with Pfizer news right on my homepage. And all this news articles comes in from these, so this is corporate affairs, and they have specific people who create these articles, at least on the homepage. And then there are assigned people within each of these communities that create the article. So we sort of have the librarians or people who create the content that can go up on these portals. But this is communication and not collaboration. Collaboration is a different story. There are team sites, there are different purposes along it, and we do, we give access accordingly. We're more lenient on collaboration, obviously. For communication, we have specific people who can create content there.
Yeah. Is that an answer to your question?
Not really. As far as like your official company, my organization, we have 20,000 plus employees on one official internet. The problem we've had is
Yeah, so we actually handle it with corporate affairs folks actually creating the content and uploading it there. They do it, and IT does not do it. And we extended the simple publishing features to, I wish I could show that on one of my slides. We give them a really simple to use interface to create that article. It's not only about layouts, but it's also giving them a simple image on the top of the form for writing in all the content, saying if you type in title, this is where your title is going to go on the home page, so they know exactly. Oh yeah, so that's my Pfizer Roll homepage. So if you go look on the left top corner, or in the center, that's the highlighted news. On the bottom side, it's news coming in from different business units. And I subscribe to all the business units I want to get the news from. So it's very, very easy for the end user to go in and create those articles. Again, they choose which kind of article they want. They can have an article that has an image on the left, right, or it's a simple headline news there. And it shows up. On the right is more of my social stuff that comes in.
Short time out, Vivek, because
Sure.
I want to do something social in between. And thank Jeannie, who is catching a plane at the moment. So thanks for your... Sorry, but please go on.
No, that's good. I hope that helps, but I can meet you after and demonstrate you how... Correct. Correct. It's a pages library, yeah.
We actually do.
That's 2010. Mm-hmm.
We actually do the same.
Okay.
We've set up our system so the users can actually go and put their information in libraries, and we'll update the site straight away. So it's the business, then, their responsibility to update that information, especially when you're dealing with international sites. They can do their own translations.
So I could add a little bit to that. We've partitioned or separated our solutions into two kinds. We've got our department or corporate content sites, and so that would be, for instance, our corporate communication sites, our intranet. Engineering would have a site. The products teams would have a site. And then we have our operational sites, and operational sites are all about content that's connected to data. So since we build oil wells, then you can drag a document and drop it on a well, and it takes all that metadata about that well and applies it to the document. So we have 6 of those because we have 5 of those because we have 5 business units. But those are that content is stored operationally and connected to operational data, and it's pulled out of SharePoint on a retention schedule and into a records management solution, depending on the phase of the well. So when that well is no longer active, all that content gets pulled out of SharePoint. But on the department sites, right, people have to be on top of that content, keeping it fresh, and that's just site by site, purpose by purpose, staying on top of it.
Okay. Sorry, maybe a microphone over there?
Can't hear you.
If we use Harmon IE, yeah.
We just use SharePoint directly, yes.
Yeah, we're discussing about the intranet and HR and all that, which may be applicable across the industries. I'd like to ask, if there are specific industry-specific, value add you have taken out of SharePoint. For example, if travelers can say, have you done a flavor or something which is specific to the insurance industry that, similarly, other panelists?
I think we're looking at that now. Like our 3 to 5 year roadmap is going to address some of those specific business concerns. That right now it's generic, it's collaborative in nature. We're also looking at how we can better incorporate records into SharePoint, and that's going to be really industry specific for us. What constitutes a record, what types of records that we have. So it's really something we're looking at now as far as how can it benefit travelers beyond the collaborative nature. Like I said, we were at WSS just a year and a half ago. We're at 2010, And now going to 2013, we want to start to see what is the business value for travelers versus just the collaborative nature of SharePoint. So not quite there yet, but we're building that strategy.
What we've done at P&G is we've created some of the solutions where we've put extra layer on top of the base SharePoint capabilities to improve usability and navigation for the end users. So this way we're able to create end user experience that we expected to, while leveraging base capabilities of SharePoint like collaboration, file management, and all this. So this has proven to be pretty useful to basically use those building blocks from SharePoint and build some extra layer on top.
Yeah. Okay. I see somebody with... The browser we are talking about.
We're IE8. Someone didn't like that.
Microsoft is doing the switches now. It's
well, as I said, we're a Microsoft shop, and we have some legacy applications that are really based on and need IE8. So that's our standard tool right now. So as you can see, as soon as you say IE8, HTML5 becomes a real challenge.
Yeah.
Trying to balance and say, can we take the advantage of what Microsoft is going towards their based HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, some of those challenges. So now we're playing that compatibility mode with the backend systems going forward. So we're still in IE8.
Okay.
Most of our systems go across a small bucket of browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, different versions of IE.
And that works? Not a lot of problems with...
Well, we design it right from the start with that in mind.
Okay. Another question. I thought over there in the corner. Yeah.
I'm wondering if any of you have any large-scale partner, and I mean supplier-customer collaboration requirements, and if so, how do you handle that? And in particular, how are you handling the ID and access management?
That's a great question. So we have those requirements, but unfortunately we have two different sites. One's in a DMZ, so it's separate authentication. It's a separate system. We're trying to fix that. So that's part of when we move these systems to the cloud. We want to set up ADFS. We want to have at least the internal people have their same account, right, both ways, and have a process to register people that are going to be partnering with a collaboration site. So that's in the works for us. It's a great question. We're not there yet.
We actually created an external partner portal, which basically authenticates the different companies that come in and their people, and only gives them access to specific applications. It won't let them, for example, go into SharePoint and then just bounce around looking at different sites. They can only look at the one site we give them access to.
Are you doing that via UAG publishing, or how are you establishing the granularity?
I'd love to tell you the details. I know it's a .NET application. I haven't delved into it. It's never gone wrong.
Get some wood tonight. What we've done in Dow is we've had some external collaboration. As we're saying, we're in the throes of getting the ADFS and all that. So what we've done is hosted an external SharePoint and did forms authentication. So that's where we're managing it out there. So not really not coming inside our firewall. We're managing it out and keeping it there until we get the availability to bring in external people and be able to identify them very quickly. So that's where we're at right now ourselves.
Okay. I had another question. We were touching on social, of course. Yammer becomes a bit of the, let's say, de facto standard now in the Microsoft world, while there were and still are many other options. How are you viewing that? Is for you Yammer also the standard, or are you also looking at other products? Nobody.
We use NewsGator today, and we're very happy with the way it works in 2010. I don't know if anybody's used NewsGator for their collaboration piece or their social piece. And they were moving a pretty good direction. We were happy with their direction. I'm expecting Yammer to move the same direction or go faster and offer better functionality, right? We don't want somebody to ask a question and then ask the same question 10 times. If it's already been answered, we'd like to interrupt that and say, hey, is this the answer to your question before you select post, right? Those kinds of features and connecting people to somebody when they're writing the question, plugging them into the right form. So I'm just watching that space to see how well Yammer gets integrated into this collaboration space.
Other opinions?
we're using NewsGator right now in the cloud.
Yeah.
As you know, managed code going forward in the cloud is not going to be supported. NewsGator is a managed code solution.
Yeah.
There's an individual in this audience, and I have it on, had implemented that for us, so he knows the struggles to get that in. We are now, when we upgrade or get in the cloud, we are going to eliminate NewsGator and go to either social sites or Yammer. The announcements this year or this week where social sites are going to stay, they're going to be supported on premise and no new features. So it's really dictating where we're going. So it's basically we've set our path and that's where we're going.
There was a question in the back over there.
I've got another question for the panel. Have you all thought about how you're going to solve the issue with Yammer in collaboration with SharePoint? Because you know that Yammer, you can actually upload documents to Yammer. Have you all thought about how you're going to sync that up, where you'll have documents within the Yammer environment and also in SharePoint within libraries? Thank you.
Anybody have an opinion on that?
I believe if you have the enterprise version of Yammer, you can disable that function. So you don't have to worry about documents going into Yammer. It becomes a link. So when somebody clicks on that link, it comes back to your SharePoint versus into Yammer. So I think that's the way you should take it.
Right, but what I'm saying is you want to enable that collaboration piece that's available in Yammer, and I'm wondering whether anybody on the panel has thought about trying to sync those two up so that when you do search, people will be able to search for documents that are being posted through Yammer and also documents that are living within the SharePoint environment.
Our position probably from now will be we won't enable sharing in Yammer. It just we'll disable it and only keep that documents within our own organization or our dedicated area.
I see our Mr. Social Ken Fazello in the middle, and he is biting his lip at the moment. So
and I'm not an expert on that one, so they got him in the groom here. So.
Shut up for so long, I'm Italian, I can't help it. Yeah, there was a session that Microsoft had of searching across both the Yammer and the SharePoint now, and they're working on enabling that. So that helps, yeah. Whatever, if that has that.
Great, thank you. Is that an answer to your question? Yep. Okay, thank you. A question in the front here.
One quick question around e-discovery. I guess I'd be interested to find out if you have a specific strategy around e-discovery, because that's becoming more and more of a challenge these days. So, what are you guys doing for e-discovery?
Vivek, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a challenge, all right. This is where we are. We are not using SharePoint for e-discovery. We're not there yet. I think there are better features in 2013, and I'm really impressed with how Microsoft is doing their e-discovery. That's a direction we want to go to. I don't know if we are there yet. Right now, it's a lot of manual work for us, and that's a big business case for using e-discovery with SharePoint 2013. So yes, we want to go in that direction. We're not there yet. The only thing we do right now with e-discovery is manage our search terms and stuff in SharePoint. So it's a pretty simple application for e-discovery right now.
Okay. Yeah, you have a question?
I'd like to ask about how you enable the field forces, especially in terms of mobility. How mobile enabled your platforms are? If they are mobile enabled, what approach are you taking? Are you going the responsive web design model, or are you using device channels?
Mobile. So it was actually also the next question. And also the last, by the way. I'm getting all kind of signals that I should shut up, and we all, but it's, mobile is of course a big topic. So how do you see basically the future of mobile apps?
So mobile for us in 2010, obviously we didn't address it. So we're really looking at it heavily now for 2013. We're in the design phases now with 2013, and we are going to look at the responsive designs. I think that's our probably 1 to 2 year roadmap, is to get up and running with 2013 and be able to use those device channels, et cetera. Right now, there's no mobile strategy for SharePoint, per se.
Other mobile strategies?
We don't actually have one as yet. We're in the same position.
Yeah.
Although when 2013 first came out, and it was still beta, one of our architects actually took our corporate site, put it in 2013, created a device channel, and showed us the site working on iPhones. It was that easy. So that will be a strategy for us going forward.
Okay. And Dave, you want to say something?
Again, that's one of the organizations I also lead is the mobile space. So yes, mobility is on our top of our mind all the time to say, can we build a solution for multiple devices? Because we're promoting bring your own device to work or bring your own equipment, and it should be able to render. So we don't really think of devices. We think of what's the form factor, can it work on that form factor, and what it should look like. So mobility is always at the top of our mind when we come to any solutions. So yes, we were really thinking about that, saying how do we, and responsible design is one way of approaching it. So yeah, it's always top of mind from us.
We have room for one. You wanted to say?
I want to ask a question actually to the panel.
Oh, they start among each other again now. It's.
Where do you stand on the idea of actually creating an app as opposed to looking at a website on a mobile device?
Yeah, we've done a lot of it. Well, maybe not a lot, but one of our first implementations was actually an app, which was basically a lot of JavaScript code on top of SharePoint capabilities. And as I said before, it was proven successful, meaning we're able to reuse the building blocks from SharePoint and created really an end-to-end web-based solution for the business without really recoding those base capabilities that SharePoint enables. So this was really, really useful.
Okay. Okay, one last question. And nobody wants to take that one? Over there.
I was going to just ask what your initial reactions are to the Office graph.
The Office graph, you say? Yeah.
I don't know. From my perspective, I'm not sure if I want to know my other colleagues know what I'm working on at that time. So I'm on the fence on that one. What's Dave working on? Or the example was the guy was working on a presentation and he got a call from his boss saying, I see you're drafting that presentation for me, but can you change slide 14? He's like, wait a minute, where's Big Brother come from? No, it's a concept that I haven't really absorbed yet, but I think it'd be interesting. I'm open-minded to it, but it's like,
well, I'm not that open-minded, I hear.
Remember, I'm still the Outlook dinosaur. Come on.
Other opinions?
Microblogging to micromanaging, I guess. But I think our business is asking for a kind of unified workspace like that. And again, because I believe that's cloud, right? You have to have, that's not something often on-prem. So it's something we need to look at. But it is something that our business is asking for.
Okay. Okay. I think a lot of learnings, a lot of experience came across here. I hope you all got value from it. It I must say, enforces me in my thinking that collaboration future over the next few years is a lot about creating context for business processes. It is not something that is on the side anymore. It is becoming mainstream. It has to become context for creating value in the business. I want to thank very much our panel, and I want to have a round of applause for. And of course, if you have any questions or want to have some bilateral conversation, we are here for a few minutes still and then head out. So thanks for your being here and have a great session and a trip back home.